Okay, looks like we are live. Coming to you live from my kitchen table. Give me a minute, folks, to make sure that I pushed all the right buttons and that everything is up and running. And if somebody can give me a comment and let me know how's the audio, how's the video, did I push all the right buttons to get everything up and running on the technical side? And then we shall proceed talking about the issue that's being reported in the news here in the Philippines about the possibility of planes being grounded due to fuel shortages. So I'm just going to read a few articles and talk about that subject. Okay, still don't see any comments coming through. So when I don't see comments coming through, there's one right there. Aaron James, how are you, my friend? Okay, the audio is good. Let me know if it's too loud, if it's not loud enough. Hey, Robert, how you doing? Let's see, King Tina, the Beach of Life, checking in from Osaka, Japan. AICS USA, how are you, my friend? Yeah, so y'all let me know how the audio is. I usually use wireless mics because I'm out barbecuing or walking around. Past few live streams, I've talked so long that my microphones went dead. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to repeat that during this stream. If I get long-winded and talk for hours, I actually plugged in a microphone. It might not look pretty, but hopefully it works and there's no interruptions during this stream. All right, back to your comments. Let's see. Paulie, how are you? Checking in from Gulf Shores. Your boy Norm, how are you? Sandvin Explorer checking in from Norway. Paulie, how you doing? Austin Pepper. Hey, Bruce. Checking in from Seattle is the JL Reese. I may have to put my old man glasses on. I will in just a second. Steven, how are you? Mauricio, checking in from El Salvador. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Everything is good here. Let's see. King Tina says, I'm planning on going back there in August. Do you think it will be possible? Okay, well, that's basically the purpose of doing this video. Okay, right up front, I'm not trying to spread any fear or panic. I'm just going to read what the government has put out. This came from an interview with the president of the Philippines on Bloomberg, and so everybody is writing articles about that. So that's what I'm going to talk about. A lot of my viewers, maybe some of you out there, including my friend that's coming in August here, you just want to keep an eye on this. Everybody knows, obviously, if you haven't bought a ticket yet, the ticket price is going up. It's going to keep going up. But maybe what we all haven't thought about or factored in is that what the president just said. In the words he used, I believe, I'll get to the article, but I think it's a distinct possibility that they may have to ground some aircraft. Let's see, Roy G, how are you doing? Video's clear, but the face is not so good to look at. Rather see a pretty girl. I would too, Bruce. I got to give me some eye candy on the left and the right. I've been slacking for a while. Big Pumpkin's up there sleeping, so I can't get her down here. She came halfway down the stairs, like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to run a live stream. Right back up the stairs before I drafted her into doing something. Okay, BK, reporting everything sounds good. Thank you very much. The Harley Pub, Beach of Life. Let's see, Scott's Philippine Adventures. California Bear. Larry checking in from Memphis. And let's see, I'm heading to the Philippines April 2nd. So again, that's the purpose of the video. So I want to say welcome everybody. If I left out somebody, hey Mark, how are you? Hey Mike, the Beach of Life, and the Mighty P Man checking in from Kentucky. Nico, how are you? All right, so I'm going to go to the first article. I got to put my old man glasses on. Man, I can see. Hob, how are you? Checking in from Sweden. Hope you're doing well. So let's get to the first article. This is coming from the Philippine News Agency. I put a link to this particular article. Grounding planes due to fuel shortage. Distinct possibility. This article was published March 24th, which it just now changed over to March 25th here. It's past midnight in the Philippines. Around 3:52 p.m. So it's, a few hours old. What is that? 8 hours old, somewhere in there. Anyhow. From Manila, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said Tuesday that the grounding of airplanes is a distinct possibility on account of a potential jet fuel shortage linked to the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. In an exclusive interview with Bloomberg, Marcos cited limitations in crude oil supply and slower jet fuel production as key concerns affecting airline operations. With the scarcity, shall we say, the limitation now on crude supply, the refining of jet fuel takes a longer time. And so we will have to depend on what is already readily available. Marcos also noted that some countries have imposed restrictions on refueling foreign aircraft, forcing airlines to carry sufficient fuel for return trips. The latest development, he said, is complicating international operations. When our airlines fly out, several countries have said we cannot fuel your aircraft. So you will have to carry the fuel there and back. And that's around here. And the long haul is going to be a much more serious problem, Marcos said. Asked whether the recent developments could lead to planes being grounded, Marcos said the country is hoping to avoid such a scenario, but acknowledged the risk. We're hoping not, but it's a possibility. It's a distinct possibility, he said. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin said Tuesday the Philippines still has an adequate fuel supply until the second weekend of May. All right, and here's the statistics. I'll go over these and I'll get back to your comments and we'll discuss it. Garin said the country has an average supply of about 45 days. Based on discussions with fuel companies, noting that the estimated remaining domestic supply is 53.14 days for gasoline, 45.82 days for diesel, 97.93 days for kerosene, 38.62 days for jet fuel, 61.49 days for fuel oil, and 23.51 days for liquefied petroleum gas. She added that the government has engaged with its counterparts from supplier countries such as South Korea, Japan, and China. Okay, that's the article word for word coming out of the Philippine News Agency. Now, it doesn't indicate exactly which countries have said, hey, if you fly over here, we can't refuel your jet. But let's go on some reasonable assumptions, like, speculate, Ron Burgundy. Because it doesn't matter if, when we sit here and we quarterback scenarios, it doesn't matter if it's accurate or not. We're quarterbacking potential scenarios. So say these countries are Southeast Asia countries, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. Just assume it's regional. And they've already told them, hey, you come over here, that's fine, but you're not going to get any fuel. So you got to have a plane that's big enough with enough fuel on board to get there and come back. Again, they haven't. I don't see anywhere where they've quoted the exact or list of countries that have told them that. Okay, so all right, back to your comments. That's the article that I wanted to discuss. If you have not been tracking, the article just came out today. Now look, is this shocking news? No, it's not, because we all know what's going on over in the Middle East. We know that the gas prices are going up. But again, it might not be something that you think about. You're just thinking, oh man, my ticket's going to be, $1,200 to get to the PI, and you're not thinking, hey, there may be a chance where they're grounding some flights. So that's what I wanted to bring up. This is not to scare anybody, but it is to just make you aware of what the president just said on Bloomberg in an interview, and everybody's reporting it over here now. So I guess the point is, if you're planning to come here, or you live here, you're over in the States or your home country, wherever you're at, it would probably behoove you to get here, to get back home, if this is your home, probably sooner than later. Or if you've got somewhere to be, you might want to bump up your flight and get home sooner than later. Now, I speak from experience, because if you go, I'm going to take my old man glasses off. If you go back to right before the lockdown, it seems like I've talked about the lockdown a lot lately. Anyhow, I was over in Thailand, and I was sitting there just enjoying life, because nobody on planet Earth thought that there was a lockdown coming. We couldn't even fathom that. And I was sitting there at the beer garden, like, enjoying everything. I was the only guy there. There weren't any Chinese tour buses. I had the run of the place. And my buddy Dennis, may you rest in peace, my friend, called me up, and I was sitting there at the beer garden drinking beer. And he said, hey man, I don't know if you realize it, dude, they're about to close the airport. You better get your butt on a plane and get back over here, or you're not gonna make it back over here. You're gonna be stuck in Thailand. Now remember, before this stuff went down, it was sort of unbelievable what was about to occur. But I ended up taking my buddy Dennis's advice and made it back in the nick of time. I almost got locked down over in Thailand, away from the old lady and the kids. So I take these things serious. If you need to be somewhere at this point in the game, my advice to anybody is you need to get there sooner than later, just in case of the worst case scenario. Hopefully there's not. Hopefully they iron this out. But I'll still maintain that if you live here and you're traveling around the world, or you're visiting family in the States, it's probably safer to get back sooner than later, if that makes sense. So, before I go to the next article, I'll go to your comments. Let's see, Paul, how are you? Lucky. Yeah, that's my Crocodile Dundee hat right over here. Laying on top of my saddleback leather bag right there. I'll put that bad boy on. I don't wear this hat like every day, because if you want to see a hat that's my daily driver, I'll show that in just a second. Well, I'll show it right now. The reason I don't wear this all the time, because it's sacred. Now, this was my daily driver for a while, and as many people have pointed out, it looks like it got mauled by a dog. No, it's just the effects of wearing this thing every day, and two kids who like to wear it as well, and an old lady. A great hat, but it's seen better days. Okay, so let me go to your comments. Y'all weigh in on what your opinion is about the situation. Okay, so Scott's Philippine Adventures. I'm not too concerned because there's like 15 flights a day between Manila and Davao, between Philippine Airlines and Cebu Airlines. I'm sure they aren't grounding all those flights. Well, I mean, that's what we would like to think, but the stats that I just read, okay, let's go back to them. Now, this is, again, coming from the government. There's 38 days for jet fuel. That's remaining, has an average supply of 38 days for jet fuel. So, at some point, you know, logic says there's not going to be 15 flights a day. You know, I'm a redneck, and, you know, rednecks got a saying, you can't get blood from a turnip. So if there ain't no fuel, there ain't nobody going to be flying. In these countries, you know, the regional countries, if they're not going to refuel the flights and fuel is already being rationed here, it's just you can't get blood from a turnip. So flights are going to start being canceled, and aircraft, according to the president, possibly are just going to be grounded. And I mean, yeah, it'll look like, well, at least the airport and the skies will look like it was during the lockdown. So again, folks, if you're just joining me, the reason I wanted to bring this up is just because so many folks here that watch our show, you either live here or you're traveling here several times a year, and you know, you really got to sit there and strategize and say, okay, if I come over there, one of y'all said you're coming here April 2nd. Okay, you show up April 2nd, but how much time do you have? You have 2 weeks where you have to be back at work, and they're saying that there's only 30-something days of fuel remaining. And I'm going to ask you the question. It might be better for you to postpone the trip until you know 100% you can get back home. And again, these are worst case scenarios, but I came this close to basically getting locked down away from the old lady and the kids for 2 years. You know, being put in the same situation that many of you out there were in during that lockdown. You had a wife and kids over here, couldn't come back. You had a home over here, you couldn't come back for 2 years, over 2 years. So I don't mess around. King B checking in from Ormoc. How are you? All right, AICS. All this shortage is made up by the oil industry to inflate prices. And Roy says the BBC channel is now carrying the news on global TV now. Okay. So, again, if I had not lived through the lockdown here, you know, I wouldn't be too concerned either. You just think that the worst case scenarios don't happen, right? But, you know, I was here. Anybody who was here, it was a worst case scenario that went down, that nobody thought was going to go down. It went down. So when you have the president of the country coming out and saying, hey, we may have to ground the planes because we don't have fuel for them. Or if we send them out, those countries don't have fuel to get them back here. So he went on Bloomberg, and in just a second I'll go. There's like a 1 minute clip with a transcript. I'll read exactly what he said. It's pretty much the same thing in the article, but I'll read exactly what he said. And so you gotta listen and pay attention. If you're one of those folks that are coming here and you only got 2 weeks, you got to be back at work or your whole life will fall apart. Is it worth the risk to come here in the middle of this when you have to be back at your job? And I'm not making the decision for you. I'm just here to merely invoke thought. Because my buddy Dennis calling me up at the beer garden saying you better get your ass back to the Philippines. They're about to close the airport. I wasn't really thinking that way until he called me up and gave me a good swift kick in the pants and said, dude, you better get back. You better change your flight, get back, and go back through the videos. I mean, it was I was lucky to get back. So I'm just merely here to invoke thought based on what the president of the country just put out. Okay, let's go to just right quick the transcript. So that was the article. The transcript, let's see here. So basically what he says, several countries have said we cannot fuel your aircraft. So you will have to carry the fuel there and back. That's around here. So again, you assume that he's talking to other countries here in Southeast Asia, when the long haul is going to be a much more serious problem. So the interviewer asked him, so inevitably planes will have to be grounded. And his response was, we're hoping not, but it's a possibility. It's a distinct possibility. So pretty much what the article said. And so that's what's being put out. Now, the next article I'll reference. Okay, this was also published today, well, March 24th. Again, it's the 25th here past midnight, but recent article from Philippine news agency. Philippine fuel supply adequate until mid-May, according to the Energy Secretary Sharon Garin. In an online briefing, she said that on average there is around 45 days worth of supply for the whole country to date based on their talks with fuel companies. So already quoted the days. Jet fuel is about 38 days. Supplies continue to come in, which is good news. She said the Philippine National Oil Company has also already contracted around 400 barrels, and the government is set to order around 600 barrels more, worth a total of around 10 billion pesos. So that's 400. That's not 400, right? That's whatever that number is, but that's what the article says. We are building our buffer despite limitations. So obviously everybody's working on it. Okay, we just went out today and walked around. The diesel price, I think it was 108 pesos per liter, right up here close to the house. I think that's what it is. I think it was 108. I've got it on the video that I'm going to post tomorrow. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 108. So it's basically double. Okay. And it talks about the energy conservation program. Again, our kids' school, they're doing online classes on Mondays till the end of the month. I'm sure that it will continue till the end of the school year, and possibly even expand to 2 days a week, or maybe they go to nothing but online. I don't know, but right now they're just doing 1 day a week online. Okay, now is it G Lucky or G Lucky 13? Vietnam cutting flights by 25% from April. All right, King B's reporting, I'm returning to the U.S. on May 5th, and I hope to get back here before October. Well, yeah, we're all hoping that this is resolved in a reasonable amount of time where this doesn't get detrimental, just real world nightmare scenario like the lockdown. That's what we're all hoping. But you know what I mean? I'm a believer. Again, to reference, I'm sitting there drinking beer, not really thinking about my flight. I'm just enjoying the fact there's not a lot of tourists. And I barely made it back. And then I lived through that lockdown. So folks, I take this stuff serious. I take it, okay, in my situation, the kids are out of school, just say June 1, into May, what have you. And we're trying to figure out, are we going down to visit the village? We're going to go down there and stay a couple weeks. I can tell you right now, we're not going down there right now. Just not going to do it. Right now, I'm not buying no tickets. I'm not making no plans until this develops a little bit further. No, that is unless that's our final destination. But right now, I don't want to even look at the price of the flights and then take the risk that that's a one-way trip for several months, if that makes sense. Okay, back to your comments. Steve, how are you? Checking in from New Zealand. Yeah, we hope that there's never again any type of lockdown. My goodness, I would hate to fathom that. But if the fuel starts to run out, it's going to look eerily like that time period. We went out today and walked around, and I've already noticed in the neighborhood over the past few days that it's gotten quieter, less traffic. Not significant, but enough to notice. You went out today, okay, it looks like everybody's going about their business, but it's a little bit less crowded. It's just enough to feel it. The price has doubled here, which is huge for most people here in the country, and people just can't go out like they were. I mean, you can't get blood from a turnip. So there's going to be a lot of elements that are very similar to the lockdown if this fuel starts getting tighter and tighter. All right. Let's see, Victoria, how are you? Time for sleep. All right, get some sleep. Get some sleep, get some rest. Okay, all right, so Lucky 13 is reporting in from northern Thailand. Are there really lines that long for fuel up there? I haven't been following what's going on over in Thailand. I've just been really concerned about what's going on here. Going to looking at the gas stations today, there wasn't any huge lines here locally. It seemed like people were pulling up, getting gas as normal, as far as normal can be. But Big Pumpkin did take a trike ride to go handle some business, and they were at a different gas station. And she tried to explain to me, Kuyadante was talking to the attendant about, hey man, is everything okay, enough fuel? And she said something about 50-50. Now obviously me and her have a communication gap. I don't know what she was trying to relay to me. I don't know if they asked the question, hey, are you always going to have plenty of fuel? When are you getting more fuel? But there was 50-50 that come up in the conversation. I don't know what that means. I still can't figure it out. But again, walking out there today, I saw people pulling up to the gas station. There was not long lines. They appeared to be getting fuel as normal here at our local gas station. Let's see, JB Post, how are you? Gas prices are up in New Jersey. Okay, have they doubled there? Because here they basically doubled. In a country where that's very detrimental. It might not seem like a lot, but going up 1 peso or 2 peso on the jeepney ride, that impacts folks here. Doubling the gas price significantly affects folks here. I saw one video where they're talking to this jeepney driver. He said, basically I used to make $30 a day, now I'm down to making $3. But you still have to go out and get that $3. And it also seemed like looking at the jeepneys, there's less passengers. Big Pumpkin said the one jeepney pulled up beside us today, and he waved to her like, "Hey, are you getting in?" And she said no, and he just put his head down. Like, what do you mean? It was like he was disappointed. Like it'd been a long day, and then he was hoping he had 4 passengers, and he didn't. Okay. Yeah, let's see. 95.4 pesos, and it was 58 per liter, according to Mike and Glad. Okay, Chimp Riots reporting that Quezon City saw huge lines. Probably maybe they had a better price. Okay, Nico's reporting that their gas prices went up but not double. Okay, here in Washington State, according to Don, gas prices have hit over $5 a gallon. Second in the nation behind California. Stevens reporting $3.50 in Alabama. Okay, here in Texas, all the stations appear to be in normal operations. AICS says he goes to Denny's every day, and it is a lot quieter already. Yeah, it just seems like it's a lot quieter. Even in the neighborhood, there's just people are being conservative about getting out, about traveling, like we all are. We've all got to figure out ways to save money. And what's the simple solution? Stay at home more. Okay, so 86 per liter here right now in Ormoc. Used to be 56 to 59 for gas. And folks, I like 3 hours ago, I walked right by the gas station and I just edited a video. In my memory, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think diesel was 108. Okay, the JL Reese reporting $6 a gallon for diesel in some places around King County. $6.50 to $6.75 for diesel. Your boy Norm's reporting Northern California of $5.30 a gallon. And Santee Todd is saying they're locking us down. Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's eerily similar to the lockdown, but it's not because they're forcing anybody to lock you down. It's because you can't afford to leave the damn house. You can't afford to put fuel in your ride to leave the house. We do a lot of walking. Anyhow, we've always done a lot of walking just to save money, and plus I like to walk. I like to look around. I like to get them exercise. Raising small kids is about energy management. As long as you take them out, get them some exercise, get them tired, they come home, they're easy to manage. They go to bed, get a better night's sleep. So we already do mostly walking, and we're fortunate enough to where we live and how we have things set up. I would say 95% of the time we walk. Occasionally have to take a trike. So we're fortunate. We're fortunate in that. And Fatima says I'm a cheap bastard already. So okay. Back to your comments. U.S. just released some of the strategic oil reserves to help keep the price down. $3.65 in Biloxi, Mississippi. Bruce in Central Florida reporting $3.89 for regular, and diesel is $5.59 a gallon. Okay, yeah, Timothy, thanks for bringing that up. I don't know anything about that other than I saw the title. There was a gas facility explosion in Port Arthur, Texas, which it's going to be offline for months. Again, I didn't take the time. I didn't have time to read the article, but I did see the headline. Okay. Somebody's talking about riding their scooter. You know, me and Fatima were, she was joking around, but she wasn't. About, you know, it's time to get a bicycle. And it's funny that she was sort of joking like that because, y'all seen videos of what I call the OG chopper, my bicycle in Thailand. I'll start telling some stuff. I lost my motorbike in my divorce, and I just walked for like a year. When I had to, I'd take a motorbike taxi, but I did a lot of walking. And then one day I was walking by this motorcycle repair shop. They had a secondhand bicycle out there, and it was just perfect. That's the OG chopper. I bought that bicycle. I kept that bicycle, and that's my primary form of transportation for like 2 years. I went grocery shopping on that thing. Everywhere I went on that bicycle. I would even pick my girlfriend up at the bus station, and she would sit on the back rack, like side saddle. I picked her up on that bicycle. She would just laugh at me. I rode that bicycle for 2 years, maybe even longer than that, before I broke down and bought another motorbike. And the reason I bought the motorbike wasn't really out of necessity. It was because I just like to go for rides throughout the country, down to the temples on Sundays. But to tell the truth, it wasn't out of necessity. It was a want. I could still be, if I were over there full time, I could still be riding my bicycle around, living life. So maybe that's our next purchase until everything calms down, is instead of going out and getting a motorbike or getting some type of Tesla chopper or some type of e-bike, I just go buy a damn bicycle. Buy a bicycle, same as I got. It's a secondhand Japanese child care bike is what it was. Like when that thing was new, it had a big car seat between the handlebars. Now, it didn't have the car seat when I bought it, but the thing's a tank. We don't know how long this stuff is going to last. And any way you can to save yourself from having to go to the pump. Some of us, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I got a scooter here riding to Mall of Asia and back. Is it one of those little electric scooters? And talking about the e-bikes and stuff, we just heard so many conflicting stories here in the Philippines that they're going to require you have to register it, and maybe you have to have a license. It's like always up in the air, and that's why I didn't try to buy a new Tesla chopper here, because you just hear so many different rumors that you can drive it on the road, you can't drive it, you can only drive it on certain roads. And so that's why I was sort of like holding off until there was something solidified so you knew exactly what the rules were. But you know what? When you're walking, people tend not to mess with you. Or you're riding a bicycle, 5-0 tends not to mess with you. You know, that's the good thing about walking or riding a bicycle. You don't get no tickets. Okay, very good point made by our friend Bruce here. If fuel prices go up, electric rates will soon follow. A lot of power in the PIs made by fuel oil. Now, I did see some comments where they're talking about trying to ramp back up on the importation of coal. That's above my pay grade. I don't know. You know, I did a video about why there's so many brownouts in the Philippines. And I didn't have to do much research on it. This was, what, last year or whatever. I was messing around and got on a page on the electric company's website. And so I just basically did the video and read from what the power company was saying. That it's pretty simple, that there's more supply than demand, and the power plants that are operating are old. They require a lot of maintenance. They need a lot of maintenance, and they're just, you know, always breaking down and always offline. And what I sat there and thought about was, you know, sort of the same thing I saw in Thailand, that, you know, when the middle class starts to come up, right? What do? What does the middle class do? What do they want? Well, they're buying refrigerators, air conditioners, all these electrical appliances that, you know, a lot of them didn't have when they were growing up. But as the middle class comes up, everybody's buying an air conditioner. You know, over in Thailand, everybody's buying a car. Well, as the middle class comes up here, the same thing's going to happen. And it's just going to continue to tax the grid. And according to the power company, you know, I didn't make this stuff up. I just read it off of their site. Hey, why is there so many brownouts? They have a page that explains it. Aging power plants, not enough of them. The increase in demand. So it's a problem that is not going to get better, especially with the rising middle class and everybody buying air conditioners. Think about that. Okay. All right, so how many thumbs up do we have? I see 61 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. And you're not going to hurt my feelings. If you give us a thumbs down, I'll take it. 157 people watching. So you know what I'll do? I need to go over and just look on my side. Yeah, everything looks good. The lighting looks okay. Pardon the microphone setup. Like I said, I was going to use a wireless mic. I got this fan on over there. At the last minute, I said, you know what? Let me just run a cable over to my other camera. No need for a tripod. I just put it on the side and got a good microphone going on. So 144 folks here now. Okay, let's go to the next article that I pulled up. Okay. All right, so, you know, it's basically all over the news right now. From the Manila Times, jet fuel lack may ground planes. Pretty much the same thing. Don't see any new information or anything other than what's been reported. Now, there is another article from Bloomberg talking about how the president here says the war may spur energy talks with China in the disputed sea. You know, you may not have a choice, but again, that's above my pay grade. So, looking at the next article, it's all the same stuff. Data from the Department of Energy shows that 98% of the country's crude oil imports come from the Middle East, with the remaining 2% from neighboring nations. So if that statistic is correct, they're down to 2% of what normally comes in. I mean, that's just basic math, right? If you assume that that stat is correct. Again, Manila eyes coal push to keep electricity costs down. Let's see if they talk about the coal even more. Okay, I can't see the information on the coal. Okay, not much there. So that's the information, folks, that I have. Let's just go back to talking about individual scenarios, okay? What do you do? Armed with this information, if you have a flight booked over here, what are you going to do? And I'm asking you, anybody who's in the situation, you know as much as I do now. You've listened to the warning. I read the warning to you that came straight from the president of the country. So if you have a flight booked in the next few months to come over here, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, you might take a few days to think about it. But what are your thoughts? Are you still going to come over here? Are you going to maybe move up your flight? Are you going to postpone your flight? And maybe there's not enough time for you to formulate an opinion, but at some point leave it down in the comments, because these are real world case studies and other people want to know what other people are going to do. But I can just tell you that from this guy, I'm not taking no chances. I'm not taking no chances. I learned my lesson, I would say the hard way, but it worked out for me because my buddy called me up and said, dude, get your butt back right now. I didn't have a care in the world. I had a flight booked next week. No big deal. I was drinking beer. I'm at home in Thailand. I'll be back next week. Like, nope, you better change that flight right now, or they're going to close the airport. I thought he was crazy. But again, thank you, Dennis, or I would have been away from my kids for a couple years. So yeah, I take it serious because back then it was real life. Okay, so John Rossi says, yep, putting my trip to the Philippines on hold till this crap blows over, if it does. All right. Thank you very much for weighing in. And, again, that's just by deductive reasoning. If you're just coming over on vacation, I think that's, it's the safest thing to do. During that lockdown, it happened so fast. So many people got stranded in so many areas of the country, and they were here on vacation. They got a job to go back to. They had 2 weeks vacation saved up. They had a job to go back to. I mean, imagine how that impacted their lives. Every day trying to get the heck out of here, missing work. I mean, my buddy was in Manila and couldn't get to the airport. He's got a job to go back to. Anyhow, the stories are endless. But I think for me, if I live in America and I've got a 1 week vacation, I would postpone it till I had a better feeling. The president of the country just gave you a warning. And next week, maybe this is a big nothing burger. That's what we're hoping. We hope for the best, but you expect the worst, and then you're never disappointed. But if you live here and you're just visiting relatives in America, if it were me, I'd get back here sooner than later. that's just me. Because like the man says, the regional players are already saying we can't fuel your jets. You got to bring enough fuel on board. Well, if the international players follow suit, it doesn't work. You can't, it's too far. They can't carry that much fuel. So the international flights, through deductive reasoning, there's not going to be many. Now, this is not saying that well, it is, because it doesn't matter if other carriers, they can't refuel here. That's the problem. Okay, yeah, you got plenty of fuel in America. Come on over, drop everybody off. Now, how the hell are you getting back? There ain't no fuel. It's a one-way trip. So therefore, there's not going to be a flight. Again, you can't get blood from a turnip. If there's no fuel, how's the plane going to go? Right, Ron Burgundy's speculation, but I think that's correct math. All right. Okay, Ron says, I am booked last February for 2 months. $780 round trip on Philippine Airlines, arriving in May. Okay, well, this is March 25th here in the Philippines, right? And so, 6 days is April. So it's a little over a month. And we're in May. So, according to those stats, 98% coming out of the Middle East. Unless they get some other sources, again, just using math and deductive reasoning and their statistics, unless they get some other sources going, there's not going to be much going on by May 1st. And I hope that's not the case. We're all hoping for the best. But if you look at the worst case scenario and just deductive reasoning and do the math, May, there ain't going to be much moving. Okay, have the jeepney prices gone up? From what I heard, they went up from 13 pesos to 14 pesos. Now, I don't really believe things till I get in the Jeep and the guy says it's 14. So I haven't rode the jeepney since I read those reports. But that's what I heard. It went up 1 peso. But when you double the cost of diesel, that's not enough for these. The math don't add up. Just like the guy said, I used to make 1,000 pesos a day, and now I make 150 pesos a day. Or maybe he said he made 1.5. Anyhow, raising, if you just sit down and do the math, raising the fare by 1 peso when the fuel price has doubled, that math doesn't add up. They're not making any money. Okay, Chimp Riot says, got back to the Philippines from Thailand on the 18th. Now Philippine Airlines, Cebu, Thai Airways, Air Asia are canceling loads of flights. I will hunker down for a while. That's pretty much what we're going to do. It's just hunker down, see how things develop like everybody else. Pro Media, how are you? Checking in from East Texas. And Dean says, if I get stuck in the PI, retired anyways. Okay. All right, so not too much worry there. Not too much worry. Again, it's the people who are coming over on a 1 week, 2 week vacation and they have to be back to work. those are the ones who really have to evaluate the question, what if the airport or my flight gets shut down and I can't get back? Do you have a way to stay for 2 or 3 months or however long this thing's going to play out? Can I do it? And by all means, if you got the bank and you can take that much time off of work, roll the dice. If you have 1 week and you have to be back at work or you get fired, you probably want to postpone the trip. And I hate to say that because the tourism industry is already taking a hit. And it's going to get worse. And so you don't want to do anything or say anything that hurts them, but at the same sense, it's reality. Does that make sense? Excuse me. Okay. All right, Bobby says his wife said in Cebu that the jeepneys are packaged in the morning because they took some out of service. They're packed. Okay, I heard that as well, that a lot of them are just out of service, whether the guys are just voluntarily doing it, or I don't know if the government's doing a coding where, hey, you can work on Monday, your buddy works on Tuesday. They do that with the taxis. But you know what? When we were out today, the one jeepney, it was packed full. And I saw a couple trikes rolling up, looked like a clown van. Now look, people over here already roll. Even us on the e-bike, we're rolling about 6, 7, 8, 9 people deep. That's not out of the ordinary. But what I saw today looked like a clown van on the jeepney. And I don't know how many Kuyas got out of this trike. I mean, they just kept getting out of there. So yeah, people are doubling up, tripling up, sharing rides. And what I noticed at the trike terminals that we went by is they were full, and I didn't see any customers. You know what I mean? And so we were going to take the trike, but the guy had the door on there, and I'm like, nah, we're not riding in the submarine. But Fatima said, keep walking anyhow, because they haven't made any money all day. They're going to be desperate, right? They're going to try to get as much out of you as they can. You think, they haven't had any business and get a reasonable deal. It's quite the opposite. They're going to try to get as much out of you as they can because it might have been their only run for the day. So, and your heart goes out to these dudes. Your heart goes out to them. That's the way they feed everybody. Now all of a sudden, it's the same with truck drivers. Anybody who every day they're pumping a bunch of money into that gas tank, and that's how they make a living. It just doubled. It's absolutely devastating to these guys. All right, back to your comments. Let's see. Okay, do you think the planes, local flights? I guess that's the question. Which flights would start getting grounded first, the local or the international? Well, and again, I'm assuming that he was talking about Southeast Asia. When he said around here. They've already told them, hey, we can't refuel your planes. Well, if the plane isn't big enough and has enough range to go over there and back, the smaller planes, again, you can't get blood from a turnip, so the small planes can't make the route. Now, I would have to sit down and look at the inventory of aircraft and their range and compare it to a map and see which ones can make it back and forth on a full tank of gas. I haven't done that. But assuming that, you know, these countries here are out of range, well, now the smaller aircraft can't make it. It has to be the bigger aircraft. And you've only got so many of them. So either way you look at it, the flights are going to be stretched thin if the aircraft cannot fill up at the destination country to make the return trip. All the smaller aircraft ain't going to be able to make it due to the distance. And I'm not a pilot. I just play one here on YouTube. But I do understand basic logic and deductive reasoning. The domestic flights, you know, that's purely based on what's here in the country. So you don't have that outside factor. But again, the statistics it was 98% from the Middle East, 2% other. So I think pretty much they're all going to dry up at the same time. I mean, how could they not? There's no fuel, period. But again, I'm not in the know. I'm just speculating like old Ron Burgundy. The purpose of this talk was to merely invoke thought in really a couple of travelers, couple types of travelers. Either A, you live here, you're visiting people in the States, it would probably behoove you to get back here sooner than later. That's deductive reasoning and logic. If you don't mind being stuck in the States for 6 months or a year, well, then don't worry about it. But if you're over there on vacation or attending somebody's graduation and your life is here, or your life is in Thailand or wherever it's at, deductive reasoning says you probably want to get home sooner than later. The same way Dennis told me, you better get your ass back here or you're not going to be able to. Okay, so I'm invoking thought and the people who live here, who are traveling around right now. Number 2, you're going to be the 1 week or the 2 week millionaire, but you have to get back to your job in exactly 2 weeks on that Monday morning or you get fired. Maybe you want to think about it. Maybe let it play out and do some really contingency planning before you come on over for your 1 week, 2 week trip. That's just logic, right? If you want to roll the dice, roll the dice. Get stuck over here in the PI, there's worse things that can happen unless you got to be at that job in 14 days at 6 o'clock on Monday morning, or you lose that job. And again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. My only objective was and is to invoke thought, because this is different, you know, according to what's going on and straight from the mouth of the president. This isn't just the gas prices going up. This is not just the ticket price is going up or the ticket price is doubling. The man just said there's a distinct possibility they may have to ground the planes because there's no fuel. There you go. That's the purpose of the video. It's just to invoke thought. Make sure everybody knows this information. Because when I was traveling around, you know, back in the day, I didn't do any research about what was going on there or the world. Man, I was just living life, drinking beer, ready for that flight. I was packed 2 months ahead of time. And I've told the story a million times, but me and my buddy Doc Wayne flew into Cebu, going to go up to Bantayan Island. I'd just come from there like a month before. We're in the taxi, going to the hotel. He said, where y'all going? I said, we're going up to Bentine Island tomorrow. He said, but sir, you can't. Like, he sort of pissed me off. I'm like, what the fuck you mean I can't? I just left there. What are you talking about? He says, sir, there's a super typhoon coming. We had no idea. We didn't do any research. We weren't thinking about a super typhoon coming. So we check into the hotel in Cebu City, and the typhoon hit that night. Now, Cebu City wasn't a big deal, just some wind and rain. Hell, we spent most of the night at a bar. But meanwhile, Yolanda was raking over the northern part of Cebu, where Fatima, her village is, and wiping out the whole place up there. Point is, we didn't do any research. We had no idea. That damn taxi driver told us. We just had one night booked in Cebu City. We're going to spend one night in Cebu City, go to this bar, and head up to the island the next day. So there you go. If you didn't know about what they're putting out in the media today, based on the president's interview with Bloomberg, now you know. Now you got to seriously sit back and think, what am I going to do in case of the worst case scenario? There you go. Okay. All right, Bobby's reporting, my brother-in-law is a van driver and he is pissed because people have booked their trip 6 months ago and now he is stuck with the higher gas bill and he will make less money. Yes. Yeah. It's a shit sandwich that he's got to eat. I mean, what do you do? But if they're flying in, just tell them, man, there may be a good chance they're not coming, period. Fake news again. Well, I usually preface these types of talks with, I don't believe anything the government says. So no, I don't believe anything the government says that's my policy. But in the same sense, this is probably some information you want to know and factor into your planning. Again, maybe it's a big nothing burger. I just did a live stream, yesterday, day before, about the 48-hour countdown. Hell, in the middle of the stream, the guy called it off and gave him 5 more days. Talking about the negotiations went great. And then Iran says, we ain't talking to nobody. Again, I don't believe anything they put out. But I can use deductive reasoning. And, and redneck math says you can't get blood from a turnip. If there ain't no fuel coming in, the plane ain't going to fly. Okay, unless that thing will run on vegetable oil or something, which I don't think it will. So, could be fake news. They could come out tomorrow and say, hey, no problem. We've got alternate sources. Everything's going to be fine. I hope that's what happens. I'm an optimist. But I was pretty damn optimistic sitting at the beer garden, days before that lockdown hit. And luckily my buddy talked some sense into me, put the fear in me, where I got my ass back over here to the Philippines, got locked down, but at least I was with my old lady and kids. Would have went out of my mind if I was away from them for 2 years. I know a lot of y'all were in that predicament, and my heart goes out to you. It was horrible. So, all right, so Roy's saying, the BBC's also carrying it. Go back up through your comments here. Okay, Chris is saying he's got 2 or 3 weeks off in June and was looking at flights, even with the inflated prices. Most likely will just postpone it now with the flight situation and more difficult to get around when there. All right, the first video we did early into this, you know, the articles, one of the points I brought up, one of the early articles, it wasn't a big deal. They were just canceling, you know, the smaller ferry trips, you know, less travel, maybe they're half full, whatever. So early into this, when that gas price creeped up from the beginning, they were already starting to cancel some, you know, not so travel ferry routes. You know, one of them that they were talking about, they canceled was from, I think from northern Cebu over to Leyte. Anyhow, within days of it, there were already some ferry routes being canceled. So, yeah, getting around inside the country, folks, it just boils down to, if there's no fuel, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be maintaining our current position until the fuel problem gets fixed. Now, the thing about the lockdown that was different, okay, the one good thing about during the lockdown, you know, at least where we were at, there was never a shortage of food. The food was there. The trucks were still running. There was always adequate food supply. People just didn't have money to buy it, if that makes sense. You know, people weren't making no money. They didn't have no money. The food was there if you had money. That was the problem then. It wasn't like, at least where I was at, what I saw over there on Subic Bay, there was never a shortage of food. There was a shortage of money to buy the food, if that makes sense. This is going to be different. Okay, did we hit 100 thumbs up? I'm showing 92 up and 2 down. Sometimes my software isn't exact, and plus the Chinese always try to mess up my broadcast. Okay. Okay, David says we ordered some mahogany and seen a 90 peso per board foot, up from 60 pesos. Yeah, so it's already happening. It's just everything's starting to go up. Now, locally, I can only speak from my experience and what I see. The other day, I was talking about the rice, right? We went there, and the price of rice was like anywhere from 48 pesos per kilo, the cheap rice, up to 63. And that was a brand called Blueberry. And I don't know, I guess I just liked the name. I'm like, hey, get a couple kilos of that Blueberry. So we tried it out, and it's delicious. So I told her today, I said, hey, go get some of that Blueberry, because we've been eating this cheap rice. And I said, get some of that Blueberry. Well, it went up from 63 pesos to 64. So it went up 1 peso per kilo. But if you go there and look at the range, it's still 49 to 64 at the place where we go to. So it's just went up 1 peso per kilo on the rice. But again, what she's telling me, the reports coming out of the village, I don't know if her sister's telling her who, that there's a few places down there that are limiting rice purchases to 5 kilos per person. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't seen that here. Obviously, me and her have a communication gap, but that's what I understood her to say. I don't know if that's coming from her sister or grandma or whoever. But, here in our immediate area, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a 1 peso increase per kilo in rice. And then obviously a doubling of diesel, roundabout figure. Okay, so go back up through the comments, see if I missed anything here. Okay, KC, I was tossing around going to the PI or Thailand next month just for a change of scenery, but I'll just hang out here in Siem Reap. Okay. I think that's the safest thing to do. The smartest thing to do. If that's your home, I mean, look, you know, a lot of things can happen in a month, right? A lot of things can happen, either for the better, for the worse, no change. But again, just look at the basic math. If you make the assumption that the math is correct, 98% of the inflow is cut. They're basically saying 1 month on the jet fuel. Unless they get an alternative supplier, the math says in 1 month things are going to change. And it's obviously going to be gradual. They're just slowly going to start canceling the flights. Okay, going back up through your comments here. Our Jake says, I think we're heading back to the Depression days, the times my grandfather told me about. Yeah, I used to listen to the stories as well. I noticed at the local grocery store, all the Little Debbie products were all gone. I guess I should ask that question. You know, wherever you're at, are you seeing that hoarding type mentality going on right now? Let's see, Coral C, how are you? Checking it from Jacksonville. Like during the lockdown, okay, we don't see that hoarding mentality here too much because people don't have the buying power. Again, there was plenty of food at the markets. People don't have the buying power to go there and buy a month's worth of food and sit on it. You know, in America, speaking from how much food I kept on hand, I say average American, we're all different. But probably the food I had in my house on any given day in America, I probably could have lived on it for 3 months. And I'm not talking I had a basement full of stuff. I'm just talking about the average American's pantry. We say that we're out of food, but in reality, we probably got enough beans, flour, rice, canned goods. The average pantry's probably got 3 months worth of food. At least I did. You know, you go to the grocery store, oh, we're out of groceries. But in reality, it's like a 3-month supply. These big ass pantries. Well, people over here don't have that. The average person, they're buying food on a daily basis, very little stock. They don't have the money or the buying power to go be a doomsday prepper. They don't have a credit card to say, you know, bad times are coming, let me just swipe this credit card and buy 500 pounds of rice. They don't have that buying power. So again, even during the lockdown, you didn't see that hoarding. People don't have the money to do that. But I guess in other places, maybe people are starting to resort to that mentality. Okay, Bobby, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Hey, Jim, how you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Let's see, Haas, are the flights canceling indefinitely for a month or just for certain countries? Well, let's just be clear. You know, just going off of what the president said, he's just saying it's a distinct possibility of the planes being grounded. There's no decisions made. Now, here in the chat, people are reporting through just everyday life and experiences that some of the flights have already been canceled. Some of the ferry routes, the smaller ones at least, according to the article I read, were canceled early on. But I guess there's a difference between everything being grounded versus just resorting to the most extreme efficiency. Obviously you don't want to run a jeepney or a ferry or a plane or anything that's half full, especially at this point. That thing has to be full. It has to be operating at maximum efficiency, or you don't run it. You cancel the route. Just like we were talking earlier. I mean, I saw that jeepney today. It looked like a clown car. So many people stacked in there. Same with the trikes. So I don't know about any specific flight cancellations. This is just a bigger strategic warning from the president. Grounding planes due to fuel shortage is a distinct possibility. And then you go down in the same article, 38.62 days for jet fuel. So an average supply of about 45 days. And that's coming from the Energy Secretary. And again, all I'm doing is reading statistics off of this article here. 45 days for diesel, 53 days for gasoline, 38 days for jet fuel, 23 days for liquefied petroleum gas, which, we just bought a brand new tank. I stole the tank back from Big Pumpkin off of her gas stove. I hooked it back up to my pizza oven, so I got a fairly brand new tank. Usually a tank lasts us for 2 or 3 months. And we're getting ready to displace. Okay, so I guess that's the other thing. See, we're in a quagmire as well. When the kids get out of school, it's our plan to move out of Angeles City and head back towards the beach. Where are we going? Still don't know. So you see, my planning, I'm in a quagmire as well. Do I go ahead and move? Do I just stay here and hunker down? So it's totally disrupted my planning process as well, because we're not ready to move right now. The kids into May is when they finish school. So all of these things are going through my mind. Do I go ahead and punch out early? Do we stay in place and stock up? We try to get moved early. I mean, so all of those decisions are going through my mind right now. And when I read this article, I was like, oh, man, that's not helping me. And I think I'm banging the microphone here on the camera. This might not look pretty, but I was going to use a wireless mic. I got this fan going over here, and this is a better microphone. So if I keep hitting this, it's not the ideal setup, but at the last minute I made a change on the microphone. Old Steven Spielberg here. Had to fire the audio guy again. Okay, so Schismosis said people are buying canned goods by the case in the local grocer. All right. Vincenzoff is reporting TSA workers are not getting paid. Yeah, I wasn't really tracking on that either. My buddy was telling me about it. They're still going to work, not getting paid. Let's see. Jay Perry, granddaughters are fed. All right, well, that's good. Okay, so the JL Reese, as soon as it started happening 2 weeks ago, I had my fiance buy, is that a 551 or 511 kilogram tank and 10 gallons of fuel with a little motorbike. Yeah, you know, again, if we weren't about to move, obviously I'd be stocking up a little bit myself. We're about to move. So, you know, obviously I don't want to stock up. That's why I'm telling you, I'm in a quagmire right now of what to do. So I'll have to pay closer attention to this, like everybody else is going to travel. Hey Leanne, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, once we get to our next location, you know, good Lord willing, if he everything falls in place, we get to the next location, yeah, I'll stock up. Let's see, Leanne says, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. Gas has skyrocketed. Not sure if I should be nervous about what's going on or not yet. I think we're all in that same boat. The not knowing part, you know, people, we naturally fear the unknown. And that's the worst of it. Maybe it's not the worst, but yeah, we humans naturally, we fear the unknown. We have no idea what's about to happen. You know, this particular scenario, you got the president coming out saying, hey, we may have to ground the flights. There's no fuel. All right. Thank you very much for the warning. I certainly appreciate him coming out and saying that because, you know, again, if that's accurate information, I certainly appreciate the hell out of him saying that, coming out and saying, hey, this is the situation. These are the numbers. Because a lot of governments, they don't want to put that out there. That's bad news. But he come out and said, hey, these are the numbers according to the energy secretary. May have to ground the flights because if they go outside the country, they can't get refuel. Okay, no brainer. And we've lost 98% of our supply. There's no fuel to put in them. He's just out there stating reality. When I think most of us are just thinking, oh man, the price of that ticket is going to be so expensive. But we have that false sense of security to say, well, the flight's going to go. It's just going to be expensive. Well, smoke. It might not be that easy. You just got to pay more. It might not be no flights. And again, I'm not hoping this goes down, folks. I'm not hoping any of this stuff goes down. I'm like you. Like my buddy said today. He said, you know, he said something like, can't we just, you know, get a damn break? Can't we just go back to the way it was and can't turn back the clock. Can't turn back the clock, my friends. Okay, have canned goods become scarce? Not around here. I haven't seen any of that. Like I said, you know, right now, even during the lockdown, there was never a scarcity of food where we were at then over in Bredo and where we're at now. There's never a scarcity of food. There was a scarcity of money for people, the average citizen, to go buy the food because nobody had no money. Nobody's got no credit. So I'm not really seeing anything too out of the ordinary where we're at. Obviously, that's subject to change by tomorrow. You know, we're not way out in the province. We're in the suburbs of Angeles City, the mean streets, the $1 million neighborhood. We just went to the SM today, and I got a video that just got uploaded. Probably publish it in the morning, y'all's time, same time. About a 2-hour walking tour. You know, went to the SM, took Big Pumpkin and the kids out to eat. We walked around, got the current chicken prices. Now I'll tell you, the sign in front of the SM said 180 pesos per kilo on the chicken. That's about what it's been. So that particular sign hasn't changed. And then down at the what's that other place called? The Save More, it was the same, 180. Now when we went to Fresh Options, it was higher, a little bit higher. But nothing really out of the ordinary from our perspective here in our world and our routine. Pandesal still the same price, still fresh out of the oven, absolutely delicious. Check out that video. It's almost 2 hours long. We were basically out all afternoon. I came in, I chopped it up. As soon as I got that thing uploading, I saw this article. I was like, man, I'm about to go live. I got to talk about this. But when I shut the stream down, I get a few hours sleep, then run that, and it's got a lot of prices on it. I've got the gas price, I got the price of chicken, pork, some burgers over there. I don't have the vegetable prices because we didn't go to the public market. I'm sort of dreading that trip because I know they're all going up. And vegetables are very, in my experience, the price of vegetables here can be very volatile. I mean, you go there one day and the damn price of onions can be double or triple. I mean, they're very unpredictable, if that makes sense. So I'm not really looking forward to going to see my vegetable lady. Because the price is what the price is, right? Okay. Let's see. Leanne says, I've been thinking of getting some beans, rice, and canned goods, maybe a few gallons of gas and gas cans just in case. Hey, it can't hurt. It can't hurt. Okay, 118 per liter here in Butuan for diesel. Foursome for life. So that's about, I think it was 108 today. It could have been 118, but I think it was 108 right here by the house. 108 per liter. Now folks, remember when we talk prices here, it's per liter. It's not per gallon. So if you sit there and you're not paying attention, you're doing the math and it doesn't add up. Remember, the prices here that we're quoting, 108 pesos is per liter. So if you're trying to convert that, you got to convert that to gallons. Okay, Sierra Sky, how are you? I live in Arizona. So far, I am not seeing any hoarding yet of food supplies, luckily. Brandon saying canned food will become very scarce soon. Very soon. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here so far. I can just tell you what I see. I'm not seeing any of that so far, but again, we're in a place where the average person can't go out and hoard too much. They don't have the buying power. Okay, premium fuel prices here today, $3.99 on the Gulf Coast. 450 pesos for a watermelon. Yeah, so I don't know if we'll go tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Well, it's Wednesday. By Sunday, I'll have all the updated vegetable prices. But again, over at the SM, Price of chicken looks like it's the same according to the sign. Fresh options, it looks like it's up a little bit. Our price of rice at our spot went up 1 peso per kilo. It looked like pretty much across the board, but I can't say that. All I know is it used to be 48 on the cheapest, now it's 49, and the most expensive was 63, now it's 64. So I'm assuming that they all went up. Let's see. Hey Raymond, how you doing? Yeah, it's late night, 1:42 a.m. Matter of fact, I just heard somebody up there crying. I might be talking too loud and waking people up, but nothing Big Pumpkin can't handle. Let's see. I filled up my Ford at a Shell gas station inside Clark, and it was 97 per liter for unleaded. Full tank cost me 3,300 pesos. Yeah, that's rough to have to pay it. And again, I cannot remember. I just edited the video, but I can't remember what the price is. You know what? Maybe I could pull it up. I'm just trying to figure out, is it cheaper on Clark or is it more expensive on Clark? I don't know the answer to that, or if there's any difference. Hey Greg, how are you? I read the title of an article, something about the dude got a DUI and they released the footage. That's all I know about it. Vincent, how are you? Okay, let's see. Walsh 55, I'm glad I went to an electric vehicle. And you know, it's funny because today a brand new Tesla passed us. We were walking down the street. Of course, problem with them electric vehicles, you can't hear the things coming. And it sort of shocked me. I wasn't expecting this. We're sitting there walking down the road. Next thing I knew, I look over and here's this brand new beautiful Tesla. I mean, I've seen them like in the distance, but like that's maybe the first time I've ever seen one that close up. But sure enough, it was a brand new Tesla, just rolling through, quiet as could be. You know, with the paper tag or whatever they put on the back of it. It looked brand new. Yeah, folks, and not to turn this conversation political, but anytime you say anything about Trump, it's automatically political. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know what the overall strategy is. Some people say he's making crazy decisions. You know, are some of his decisions crazy, or is it part of the overall strategy? Only they know. Again, their planning horizon is 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, where most of our planning horizons are, hey, can I pay rent for the month? I got enough money for groceries for the month. We're planning on a 1 month planning horizon. Presidents of nations are planning 50, 100 years. At least that's what you think they would be doing. We talked about it in the last live stream. How long is oil supposed to last? If you ask Professor Google, some of the numbers come up with 50 years. Some come up to be 100 of known oil reserves. Now that's known. We obviously don't know where everything is at. But if you look at it from a simple puzzle, okay, Venezuela, biggest known oil reserve down there in that Orinoco oil belt. U.S. just recently went down and snatched their president. Do you think that they went through all that because the guy's accused of sending a few kilos of coke up to America? No. That is not the reason. It's because of a thing called the Orinoco Oil Belt. Pretty simple. Iran is number 4 on the list. And so if you have a resource, whatever that resource is, that's going to run out, you want to be the guy that's holding the most quantity of that resource at the end. You don't want to be the guy or the country that runs out of the resources first. So if you look at it from a big picture, a 50-year, 100-year planning horizon, it makes more sense as to what they're doing. And I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm just saying if you look at it from that standpoint. You know, go dig up Rommel and ask him what the effects are when you run out of fuel during a war. You lose. You don't want to be the guy that runs out of fuel first. You're going to lose. I'm pretty sure that's what Rommel would tell you. Okay, let's see, Ravik. And folks, I don't see your screen names anymore. They changed it to where I see your handles, right? I'm assuming you're seeing the same thing. So sometimes it's hard to decipher the handles. It was much easier when I would see your screen names. But the problem with that is anybody could create the same screen name, and you'd think you would, if you weren't paying attention, you thought you were talking to this person and it was a troll or what have you. So now they show the handles, and it's hard sometimes to decipher the handles. I think probably the best thing would be for them to show the handle and the screen name. Then you can look, oh, that's Bill, and then you get used to seeing the handle, and you know if that's the real Bill or if that's somebody. Anyhow. Politicians, when have they ever really told the truth? So everybody's saying, oh, Trump's lying, whatever. That's not news to me. That's just not news. That's just par for the course. Okay, Mr. Clark says, massive electric vehicle lease returns this year. EV prices will crater. Okay, and I got a big lizard right on the ceiling, so if something falls out onto my head and I jump, it's just a lizard. Don't worry about it. I say that because I was filming, I guess about a year ago, whatever, and one fell off the roof onto my head and it went like that. Anyhow, electric vehicles. Okay, I've been out of America for a long time. I haven't owned a car in 15 years. I've driven a car 3 short occasions in America over 15 years. I'm behind the times. I talk about it many times, but like when I was driving out west, the car, that Toyota, would start slowing down. When I got behind an 18-wheeler, I couldn't figure it out. And somebody told me it was something adaptive radar, or I was getting too close. I couldn't figure the thing out. I've never ridden in a car that drives itself, and nor do I want to. I'm not interested in the damn car driving. I want to drive the car. So I'm behind on technology. Like a 15-year caveman to most of all that stuff going on in America. I don't want to ride in a plane that flies itself. I want some pilots up there. I don't want to ride in a car that drives itself. I want a dude up there either driving me around or let me drive the damn thing. That's just me. But I changed my mind a lot when we bought that Tesla chopper. If you don't know what the Tesla chopper is, it's a little, 3-wheel e-bike that a lot of people have described as a hover-round. And it's not as big as a hover-round or one of them Walmart carts. Like I was in Walmart and I was looking at those carts, and they're bigger than the Tesla chopper was. It's tiny if you see it in person. So we were riding around the streets of Angeles City every night on this Tesla chopper. And most of the time, who did I have on there? I had myself, I had Forrest G standing up in front of me. I had Maria, Fatima, and another lady on the back. So I had 3 adults and 2 kids riding around everywhere on the equivalent of a hover round. At least that's what we used to call them, right? Back in the day, it was a hover round. Basically on that cart at Walmart. We went everywhere on that thing. I didn't buy one years before because when they first got introduced over here, you couldn't get parts. Now this is years ago. But everybody would complain, hey, I bought one. It needed a part. It took forever to get it. Nobody knew how to fix it. Those were the early days. Well, when we got this one, the thing was a champion. I mean, it just kept going and going and going. And what I realized was, number one, I plugged the thing in at night. It was convenience. It was just simple. The damn thing never broke down. Now, the brakes got taken out, but that was because I hit a big, there's big speed bumps around here. And you would hit the speed bump, and it would push up the linkage, and my back brake never worked. But that's just damage from these big speed bumps. The thing was an absolute champion, and it was a small e-bike. It was very efficient. Well worth the money. So what I realized was, if the price of an electric vehicle is cheaper than a gas engine car, and the range is equal to or 2 kilometers more, it would make sense to buy an electric vehicle. They're just more efficient. They're easier to deal with. But I don't know how much a Tesla is, but I heard they're pretty expensive. And then when the damn battery goes out on those things, you might as well buy a new car. That's what I understand. So until they get the price point down, I don't think they're set up for success. But this is just a person looking from the outside in, which before I had that Tesla chopper, I didn't want anything to do with an electric vehicle. I'm old school. But after a year or two, riding around on that thing through the streets, okay, it worked out real well for me. You want me to buy a car, you got to make it cheaper than the gas car, and you got to make the range a little bit longer than the gas car. Now I'm interested. But if I got to pay twice as much, 20%, 30% more for an electric vehicle, and then when the battery goes out, it's useless, those numbers don't add up. And a lot of things I'm just speculating. I don't know how much a Tesla is. I've just read articles in the past where when the batteries on those things go out, it's cheaper to buy a new car than to fix the battery. Okay, so KD says the BYD Dolphin is super cheap. Now I see those BYDs, or I don't know if you pronounce it. I'm assuming it's BYD. I don't know how to pronounce it. I see those riding around though. But again, I'm not in the market for a car. I got no idea how much they cost. Hey Heath, how you doing? Southeast Tennessee. Voice is starting to go. So folks, if you're just joining me, I just read an article that's circulating over here where the president of the Philippines just basically says on a Bloomberg interview, I'll pull up the article, that grounding planes due to fuel shortage is a distinct possibility. This is through the Philippine news agency. You go to pna.gov.ph, and at the bottom of the article, again, if you're just joining me, there's the energy secretary basically says they have a adequate fuel supply until the second weekend in May. Okay, we're almost to April, so we're talking about a month and a half, and the amount of days on average she gave is 45 days based on discussions with fuel companies. It's an estimate, but the exact numbers that she gave, I'll go over them again because some of y'all are just joining us. The remaining domestic supply for gasoline is 53 days, 53.14 days. There's 45 days of diesel, 97 days for kerosene, 38 days for jet fuel. So out of all the fuels, well, 23 days for LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, but 38 days for jet fuel. That's according to the article coming out of the Philippine news agency, and it originated with an interview that the president did with Bloomberg. Okay, so folks, back to your comments. I'll take a few more comments, and then I'll shut her down in a little bit, go snuggle with Big Pumpkin. It's almost 2 in the morning here. But make sure, if you got buddies or fellow travelers, expats, whatever, make sure they're aware of what the man said, and with the purpose of at least invoking thought. Make sure they know what the situation is. Okay, Kel says BYD stands for burn your driveway in China. They catch fire so often. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't want a computer driving my car. I want to drive the car. I don't even like fly-by-wire in aircraft. What's wrong with some pulleys and levers and cables and the captain up there in control of the aircraft, not a computer? All right, Kel's reporting Thailand's out of fuel in a lot of places already, and Australia has shortages because everyone's filling up jerry cans, hoarding the fuel. Yeah, I did see that title, Vincent. Some Pakistan says they're ready to hold peace talks with Iran and the U.S., which is, I think, it's kind of comical considering, according to Pakistan, they're in an open war with Afghanistan as we speak, and have dropped a few bombs on Kabul. And I have no idea what's going on now because it's not in the news. It's not a big deal, but that's what they said. We're in an open war with Afghanistan, and I think the last I heard, they dropped a bomb on a rehab center. I don't know if that was the intended targets. Probably wouldn't make a lot of sense, but that's what the news report said. Okay, back up through your comments. Talking about the market manipulation, my buddy was telling me, and I saw a title of an article, something about right before Trump made that announcement, there was a bunch of, what's the word? Not hedging. A lot of people making investments right before that announcement was made. I don't know if that's true or not. See Sonny checking in from Las Vegas. How are you? How are things in Vegas, Sonny? Can you just give us a report? Is tourism down as much as you see the thumbnails on YouTube? I mean, you see some of these thumbnails and a video clip. It looks like there's nobody on the streets of Vegas, but you don't know what to believe these days. Yeah, a bunch of shorts, a lot of orders placed. That's what I heard right before he made the announcement. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, folks, I want to thank you for joining me on this little informal live stream. You know, I've been doing my live streams outside. It's just better weather, better backgrounds, what have you. I'm just sitting here at my formal dining room table. Matter of fact, this place is a mess. I got to get this place squared away. I got wires and cables and everything going every which way. But you know what they say about the internet, right? Done is better than perfect. And that's hard for a dude like me because, you know, you're raised, hey, you know, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure everything's dressed right, dress. That's not the way the internet works. Done is better than perfect. Okay, so KC is reporting tourist arrivals across Southeast Asia are down significantly. Yeah, I mean, if you're the average tourist and you see the article that I just talked about and watch the video, it doesn't make sense to go on vacation in the middle of this. It doesn't make logical sense to do so. And I hate to say that because, you know, the tourism industry worldwide is going to take such a hit, and there's so many people involved in the industry, you know, and your heart goes out to them. But in the same sense, it's just not smart right now, right? It's not smart when you read this article that I just quoted, coming from the government, roll the dice and go spend a weekend somewhere that has the potential to run out of fuel for the aircraft. Foursome for Life says, hope all the expats don't have heart attacks in the coming months when their power bills go up because of the oil shortages, even though the plants are coal. Yeah, you know, electric here is already expensive. And hey, Tika, how are you? Hope you're doing well. And then Kel says 1.5 billion in shorts just before the announcement. Whoever it was made 60 million in 15 minutes. Yeah, until the USA fixes the TSA issue, I wouldn't want to travel in the USA either. Yeah, I heard the lines are just hours long. Okay, you know, I talked about what we're doing, what we're doing to save money, and it basically boiled down to we're not running the air cons during the day here. You know, our electric bill was 8, 9, somewhere in there, but we were running basically a 24-hour air con. You know, we run one to sleep with, and then during the day I was running one. And I said, you know what, I don't want to pay 8, 9K. And our average through the years is at least 10. We've had some really high electric bills. I said, I'd like a 5K, $100 electric bill. Well, this last one, we pretty much met it by cutting off 12 hours of the aircon usage. So now instead of 24 hours, we're down to 12 hours. We've been sitting outside. Even in the heat of the day, we sit outside, and if it gets too hot, we just let the kids play with the water hose for like 10 minutes to cool them off. Throw some water over my head, cools me off, you know. And so we didn't cut it in half necessarily, but we saved, what, 3,000 pesos just by cutting that aircon off. But I think it's one of those situations where you have to end up working twice as hard for half the money. So I agree with you. I think within a few months our electric bill is going to be back up to where it was at, 8-9K, and we're still not running the air conditioner during the day. So we're still sweating to the oldies during the day, but our bill is back up to where it's at. But it's no different than what the Jeepney drivers are doing. They got to work twice as hard for a quarter of the money. So, what's the solution? I don't know. Just get rid of the air cons altogether. Run one fan at night. And see what happens. I'm just reflecting back on my days at the $28 beach condo. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just search $28 beach condo. Even though I produced it, it probably is admittedly the best real estate video ever made in the history of real estate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just search $28 beach condo. My rent was 1,500 pesos back then. Came up to 28 bucks. We had a $7 electric bill because we had no aircon, no refrigerator. I had a cooler. I get some ice every day, keep my beer cold. $7 on the electric, and our water was like $3. You talk about no stress. I mean, seriously, it like when it was time to pay the rent, I was laughing. It was funny. It was just comical. Are you kidding me? $28 a month. When the power bill came in, I was laughing my ass off. $7. The water bill was $3. My goodness. I never worried about pretty much anything. It's just what we're going to eat today. We're going to the beach. What we're going to cook. How much beer am I going to drink? In times like these, trust me, I miss the $28 beach condo. Somebody rented the place. They're living there, last I heard. But I told them down there, I said, if that place ever comes open, I'm moving back to the $28 beach condo. Maybe it's went up to $2K by now due to inflation. It's a little steep, but I'd still be okay. I like the 1.5 better. But with today's exchange rate being right around 60, it hit 60 the other day. I don't know if it's dipped down now. Somebody do the math and put it on the screen. How much is 1,500 pesos right now with today's exchange rate? It's less than 28 bucks. Somebody's got to put it on the screen for me. 1,500 PHP to USD. Okay, Casey says his electric bill is less than 3,000 pesos and it runs 24/7. The last video that I did about our electric bill, I put the screenshot on there. And there's a lot of fees on there that you don't understand. I don't know what they are. One was kind of crazy where like there's some type of discount on there and then you got tax for the discount. I don't know. I can't make sense of it. I just know that it's always expensive here. I don't want to say no matter what you do, but if you're going to live comfortably with an aircon, all the places I've lived, I've always got hammered. But the $28 beach condo, no aircon, no nothing. The only reason it was $7 is because we cook with that little electric wok. That's what ran up to $7. Yeah, I probably spent 20 times on beer what I spent on my rent. But when you're paying 28 bucks a month for rent, you don't care. All right, folks. I'm I'm going to go ahead and shut her down. I want to thank y'all for joining me. You know, again, the purpose of the video was just to let you know what they put out, what the government put out. Not trying to create panic or anything like that. Just to invoke thought, let you know what they put out. And if you're planning on coming over here on vacation, you know, just make sure that you arm yourself with this knowledge and sort of keep a pulse on it, and then at the last minute decide if you're going to roll or postpone what you're doing. If you're over in America visiting the grandchildren or attending somebody's graduation, but your life is here, maybe you do want to consider getting on back over here ahead of schedule. But again, I'm not telling you what to do. I just put the information out there. Well, folks, okay, so let me go over here. Vegas is a ghost town now. Now, is Earn 427. Are you in Vegas, or are you just, I mean, I've seen some clips, and that's my perception, is that it's a ghost town. But I don't know that. I haven't been to Vegas in a while. Are you boots on the ground there and seeing that Vegas is a ghost town? See, New York City, checking in. Bunchy, how are you? Let's see, Mr. Dan. Man, my voice is about gone. I don't think I could do some Elvis right now, but I'll tell you what. Let me just invite everybody to watch the premiere. I'll run at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a 2-hour video. We're walking from SM Telebastigan down to the Burger King. And I think the title of the video is, Can a Family of 4 Eat on $10 in the Philippines? I'll cover the gas price, at least locally here. Price of rice locally. It's almost a 2-hour show. We did a lot of walking. Matter of fact, I'm, you know, a little bit tired. My legs are tired. I did a lot of walking. So 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I invite you to watch the premiere of me taking Big Pumpkin and the kids out for supper. And if you're here in Angeles City, maybe you know about this place or not, but a bunch of nice little restaurants over there, and we found a little hidden playground. Just check out the show. 8 p.m. I'm going to run it as a premiere. So with that, folks, I'm going to shut her down. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see y'all 8 p.m. Atlanta time for a 2-hour show. Let's see. Saw Project Hail Mary yesterday. Great movie. I saw the title for that. I'll go watch the trailer and see what that's about. Okay, folks, I'm out of here. If y'all don't mind, okay, watch your like button and see if it lights up red. Tap that like button. Did it light up red? Hit that like button. Smash that like button. It helps out with the Google squirrels. And if you say the right words, that little box will light up red for a split second to draw your attention to it. But it's mysterious. I can't get it to do it reliably. Alright, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all have a good one. Be safe. Peace out, my friends. I'm out of here. Time to go snuggle with Big Pumpkin.